It's the Five Stones Radio Show with your hosts, Raymond the Real Estate Monkey Modulin and Colin Hedegaard. Sit back, relax, try to survive. Here comes the Five Stones Radio Show.
All right, welcome to Five Stones Radio Show, a la podcast. I'm Raymond Modulin, a.k.a. the Real Estate Monkey, and with me, as usual, again, or I'm with them, I guess, is...
Colin Hedegaard, the Great Dane.
They're over there.
I'm the Great Dane.
I'm Joe Trester, the Real Estate Advocate.
And congratulations, you had a couple of closings this last
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got some stuff moving,
Yeah.
which is good.
I heard that as of this filming, which is middle of June of 2023, foreclosures were up 14%. So,
Yeah, I think we got continued rough times. And
the thing I don't understand with that statement, and I know this wasn't our topic, but I thought I'd waylay it a little bit,
that's all right.
is the people that are being foreclosed on typically, and I don't know the stats 100%, but typically are within the first couple years of buying the house. Would you guys not agree?
Oh, I agree.
So anybody that's bought a house, though, in the last 3 or 4 years should have had a decent interest rate compared to what they are now. And I mean 3.5, maybe even as low as in the 2s on some of them, that I guess maybe they just completely lost their job. But that just seems like a big number of foreclosures
Well,
There was a lot that was
Already.
deferred.
already.
I mean, through all the COVID, there were a lot of things that were...
That's a good point. Maybe those people that got deferred, and that's what we're seeing now, that aren't able to.
It's that ripple.
it's hard to imagine that you wouldn't just sell your house and make a profit. But remember,
Well,
a lot of people were paying over.
I was going to say that we have said that historically, and I've told my agents, clients in the last 2 or 3 years are not going to be clients for 4 or 5 years because A, they overpaid, B, is they got a hell of an interest rate, and it would take a tremendous house, I think, to get you to get away from. We know a guy that got in the ones,
Yeah.
and he has said to us, I'll never sell this house. You know, because, I mean, you're looking at an interest rate now that's 4 times bigger than what he's got.
In my experience, people did not buy less house and save money.
Yeah, no, they did.
They bought up.
Well, you know that. I mean, this is your gig. You write, you approve them and say, well, you can buy at $250, but my professional suggestion is you look in that $200, so you're not maxing out your house payment totally, and no one ever listens.
No, in fact, they come back and say, well, what do I have to do to buy $275?
Yeah. So you're absolutely right. I think people see that number and go, oh, well, I can get 300. I'll buy a 300.
The other broad stroke thing to keep in mind is that we still do
He scared me there for a minute.
Yeah, I thought he was going to talk about broads.
He paused in the wrong place.
broad stroke item is that we still do practically no down payment. 1% down, 3% down. So people don't have to have a lot of skin in the game, and they don't even have enough equity to pay a real estate agent to sell their house.
Do you think that causes them to be more interested in the potential of foreclosure since they're not,
They're not interested in foreclosure. I think it's a business decision. a lot
or
of
less
times.
scared of
I don't-
foreclosure?
I think that people are buying houses who shouldn't be buying houses still. No different than prior to 2008.
Yeah.
That's the point I was trying to make.
That
You got
is,
no money in the bank. You got good credit. You got barely $10,000 to your name. You can put 10,000. You own
Yeah.
a house and you're broke.
that is something that we continually talk about with a lot of people. When I teach new agents, or I talk to my agents, or we talk to your clients, that there are people that should not be homeowners simply because of their historical financial past that they can fix. But right at this moment, you're not a homeowner.
Nope.
You know, if it takes all of your money out of your cash, or you're cashing out an IRA, you're taking money out of your IRA for a down payment, or you have to work 2 jobs to make that $1,700 house payment. How long are you going to work 2 jobs? Well, you're not going to do it for 30 years, you know. So, yes, I honestly believe that there are people, and right now, the NAR's data will tell you that about 66, 2/3 of the population are homeowners. I think it probably needs to be a little lower than that. We traditionally run in that 66, 67%. Maybe if it was as low as 60, we wouldn't have some of these
I
issues.
do think that's coming, though, as some of the older generations, let's put it politely, age out of life. These younger generations are not necessarily as into the thought of owning.
Well,
So I do think it's going to naturally occur over the course of the next 15 years,
yes,
probably.
some of the other statistics will tell you, according to the millennial age group, and this was in the 2020 census, 24% of the 79 million people that are in that group will classify themselves as forever renters. So you're right. I think that there are people aging out, and there are people coming into the age that they should buy that have already identified they won't. So I do think that you're right. That number may drop drastically.
But as a number, it's a big number because half of them is the same as the baby boomers' entirety.
Yeah.
So I think that's why prices are staying high. There's demand for houses. And there's
So
not supply.
you figure there's 80 million for easy math, 25%. So there's going to be 60 million buyers.
Well, and even if maybe even just half of them buy, you're talking about 40 million. That's the size of the baby boomers.
Yeah.
The entire generation.
So there's still a lot of purchasing power out there, but I do think, based on what Joe was saying, they have less interest with the nomadic lifestyle that they have, with the affordability, the fact they just don't want to work.
Yeah, I mean, and then I look at this data that came out yesterday. Our local board of realtors in May in the central Indiana area
Of 2023.
Yes, of 2023. The average home price was $317,000. In 2020, it was $255,000. So we have had almost $100,000 jump in average home price. And what's happening is the people that would have maybe gotten a conventional loan with 20% down, in order to compete, they're doing an FHA at 3% and taking the other chunk that they had saved, if they did it that way, and are using it to go above to steal that house and getting themselves in there, upside down before they ever start. They're not upside down with the bank, but they're upside down with their own personal, and that is what's leading to
I've
where we're
said
at.
that if when you start seeing these people either get foreclosed or sell, it's not the bank's money.
No.
It's going to be their overpayment of equity that they lose, their own money, or they just won't sell.
Yeah. Well, and then let's be realistic. When you're doing something and your margin is thin, like, okay, right now in this moment in time, I can afford to do this. All it takes is one person to get sick.
Yeah.
For 3 months and they can't work, and it all falls down.
Right. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of people, and Colin can back this up, that verify income with 2 jobs. Mm-hmm. And they use those 2 jobs, then they go out and they buy the max house, and that's what I was saying. Do you plan on working that part-time job for 30 years? Because all of a sudden you get tired or you get older and you say, I'm going to quit that second job, and now all of a sudden you can't afford something you afforded 5 years ago because you overpaid or overextended your number.
I wonder how they account for job stacking. I have not had a client come through that says I job stack with 2 full-time jobs remotely.
Now, job stacking, I think, is just a new version of I've got a second job.
Yeah.
They just tend to run them. In that term, you're using it as 2 full-time jobs where they maybe work at home for 2 different companies. I think that is going to potentially, and we can get into a whole nother radio show.
Well, and we did.
How do you allow your other worker? Do you allow your worker to work another full-time job? Because if they are they really?
Well, they clearly could do a little more productivity.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Are they really then giving you 100%? Because if they've got 40 other hours, they could be doing 40 other hours of the job I assigned them, or assign them something second.
Keep in mind, someone could work they could do 100% of what you want them to do at 50% productivity.
Well,
for their own personal productivity.
And now we're getting back to a previous radio show, which, by the way, you can check out other videos and radio shows and podcasts on youtube.com/5stones mortgage.
And that particular episode is in season 1. So go to that playlist. You'll find it there.
Where we discuss that. Can somebody do 40 hours in a 20 hours? Is that acceptable? Or do you double up their workload then to make them actually busy for 40 hours?
I remember saying in one of those early episodes that the average person won't be able to buy the average house. That day's here, by the way.
Oh, it's $317,000 for an average house?
That
Absolutely.
house is over $1,000 more a month, more than it was a year ago.
Yeah.
I mean, 3-4% on.
Well, in general, what's 317 right now for a payment in general? I mean, I know.
Oh, probably like $2,500.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think about that.
And that's just P&I.
Maybe $2,800. That's your monthly payment. You put some down, and
then you start getting into taxes and insurance.
so for that to be half your income, you got to be making 70,000+.
Well, and then think the other
And it's
side.
really only supposed to be 24% of your income.
Dave
So
Ramsey
now you're
says-
making $150,000.
Yeah, Dave Ramsey says the 15-year mortgage should be 25% of your take-home.
Dave Ramsey's also getting sued.
Well,
But that's a different story for a different day.
yeah.
The other thing
He's
you got
not
to.
getting sued for that.
No, that's true.
He's getting sued for promoting somebody that was nefarious.
The other thing to keep in mind is I would tell you, I think we would all agree, I don't have the evidence in front of me, more people make a car payment than own their vehicles right now. I don't think there's a lot of people that walk in the door and buy a $35,000 car. You do, but you're a person of a different generation. If we talk about these younger buyers, they're not walking in the door with $40,000 in cash.
The average car payment's almost $1,000 too. I just saw that data Monday.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
It was $550 prior to COVID. Now it's $1,000.
Base model pickup truck. I saw a commercial and they're making it seem like this. Oh, what a great thing. Walk in with $6,000 down and you can make a car payment at $783 a month. I mean, that. I know. But I mean, think about that. So you got almost $3,000 a month on your house payment. Then you probably have 2 cars. Yeah. So let's say that's another 50. That's $5,000 a month just in 2 cars and a house. That's not food. That's not gas. That's not school. That's not your kid complaining because, hey, I want another $20, Dad, because the sun came up today.
I want a pair of those Nikes.
I want a hot dog, and you'll get nothing, and you'll like it.
Spalding.
Yeah. So yes, you are looking. I was going to say Naval Credit Union now offers a 10-year, 120-month car loan.
Well, if you're buying a $125,000 car, you got to spread
You look at the new Escalade. I'm at the new Cadillac Escalade ESV, top of the line. I saw one sitting in where I bought mine, was like $127,000. That is actually more than I have paid for. And I've bought 30 houses in my life through rentals and flips and stuff. I don't think I've ever paid that for a house. Now, the one I live in, yes. But I mean, most of my rentals I've ever bought weren't that
what
much.
I paid for my second house.
Yeah.
$127,000.
I think the house that my wife and I bought was sitting on the market, and back in the day when I wasn't a realtor yet, and Raymond was our realtor, I think we paid $116,000 for the house.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go spend $116,000 on an Escalade.
Well, when I say that we got more pain coming, I mean economically speaking. Families in America got a lot of pain ahead because inflation is still out of control, home prices are still rising, Interest rates are going to stay up because inflation. People are going to start losing their jobs. We got a really tough.
So we might end up, I don't know if we're going to see the crash of 2008 because there was a surplus of homes. But unfortunately, surplus of homes come from
Economic
everything you just mentioned. People start losing their jobs, and all of a sudden they can't make house payments. And then we open the show with the statistics that foreclosures are up 14%.
And these are all lagging. Housing is
Yeah.
lags behind. So as
Yeah.
things suck,
So you might end up seeing back to the days of the short sale that I did a whole bunch of in 08, 09, 2010. You know, all the people getting in trouble and upside down and didn't work their second job. Now they can't afford the house, or they overpaid and can't afford the house.
well, I think of people like us. We've owned our house for 6 years or 7 years, something like that. Now we have a bunch of equity thanks to the housing prices going up so high. But if we needed to sell, where are we going to go? We can put a whole bunch of money in the bank, but now I've got to go into a $3,000 a month house payment. Or
Yeah, my oldest son said that.
where are you going to go?
He called me and said, "Dad, my house is valued at such a high price, I'd be dumb to sell." And I'm like, "Yeah, Brandon, but where are you going to actually buy? Because now you're talking about buying at the top." And this was last summer. I said, "You're talking about buying at the top of the market for, apples to apples." I said, "You should just sit on the house you're at." And they saw the infinite wisdom in their father and
Well, that's
said, "Hey, I kind of know what I'm doing in this."
I think where we're going to see a lot of change, and I don't want to get into politics as a whole, but politically, that is where we're going to see people moving for those reasons. If I had to take a guess, property values in like a California and a New York are going to start to come down because people are leaving, and they're going to have to come down to get people to come in. Property values in a Florida or another state where there's opportunity for people that are going there.
You mean a red state?
Yeah, they're going to go up, and you're going to pay more to get in. I mean, that's what's going to happen. I mean, that's what's happened, downtown Indianapolis the last few years,
Well-
where people have gone in and bought blighted properties, fixed them, and gone from this house that they spent $38,000 for because it's been boarded up for 5 years, and just sold it for $580,000 because they.
Yeah.
That's become very competitive, though. That's tough to go in and buy houses up for $40,000 now. I mean, people.
Well, they don't exist.
Yeah, that I put it akin to the old $1. I heard banks were selling houses for $1. Well, they might have been in the 80s and 90s to offload, but that is now gone. And like I said, now that is gone. Even these banks that have that house realize it's not 40, and those kind of deals are getting further and further in between. And there are more and more people buying the DIY home stuff on HGTV and thinking it's that easy. I remember buying houses at the sheriff's sale. There were 4 or 5 of us that were common. We'd always sit together and talk, and then all of a sudden you started seeing new people coming in and way overpaying at the sheriff's sale because they saw it on DIY how they were going, and it got to the point where Jim and I and David Britton and all them quit buying houses because people were just running the price up beyond what it should have been to make any money on.
Yeah, Chip and Joanna can flip a house in 30 minutes, man. I watched it.
Yeah, and made $140,000
And they're smiling
every
the whole
time.
They're smiling the whole time.
But I mean, it's that in everything. Like, I'm in a crossroads again. Go back to vehicles. I'm at a crossroads with my daughter's car. Do I sink money into redoing the power steering and 2 or 3 other things, or do I take $5 or $6 and go buy a car? Well, that $5,000 or $6,000 car that was, admittedly $1,000 or $2,000 when you and I were young, $50 when he was. That's a $9,000 or $10,000 car now. Like, I went to a lot. What do you have for this? Well, we got one car that was going to go to auction, and they drive it up. You got a wheel that's bent on the back. It's missing a headlight and everything. Well, we'll sell you this for $5,000. No, you won't.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're going to get it.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Politics is obviously going to drive, because I think people are starting to have enough. I don't know if you guys saw that. There was a huge fight in a mall out in L.A. Over pushing stuff on kids. People finally like, screw this, and they had a big fight.
Yeah, I did not see that.
Yeah.
Just for your knowledge, the first used car I bought, I think I paid $500 for.
There you
Of
go.
course, that would have been 1970.
Now you can't buy an iPhone for that.
78, 79 or something.
My first car was a used low-mile Mercury Capri, and it was $3,500 for a low miles. It was a 4-speed
Yeah.
on the floor.
I was a whiny little jerk, and I got a brand new car when I was 15. Then I got a brand new car when I was 17. Then I got a brand new car. I mean, I was a whiny little jerk. It took me about 2 decades to pull the silver spoon.
No wonder
out.
you're a princess.
You know it. Can't you see my crown?
Those size 12 pumps are a bitch to find, aren't they?
From 15s, man.
My first car was given to me by my uncle who used to race it at IRP. It was a Belvedere 2, 1965 or 6. But the first one I bought, I think I paid $500 for. But it was a $500 car. Legitimately was a $500 car. So
what do we need to tell people? They need to make some damn money.
no, what really
Keep up with this world.
they need to learn out of all this is do not spend a bunch of money on the house. You know, like you said, you tell them you could qualify for X. I think a person really needs to take that net number from you and have a deep soul searching and go, yes, but do we want to spend that? Do I want to be a slave to my job or 2 jobs to make that $3,000 a month? Or could we back down a little bit, get a $2,000 house payment, and use $1,000 in our retirement for later, or go on a trip? You know, go on a weekend vacation somewhere. Would that be more beneficial? I think that's where I would be with that.
Isn't it, and I'm going to give kudos to Dave Ramsey, but he ultimately teaches that you need to sacrifice something. And that's where we are. I mean,
That's where we should be.
Yes, that's where we should be. I often think of my grandfather on my dad's side. He raised 6 kids in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house in Garfield Park.
Yeah.
And they survived that. They all came out. They're all successful kids. And perhaps living in a tough situation makes a kid tougher. And we don't live in a world where we sacrifice very much.
Well, and the other
Most
thing,
of us. I mean, to be honest with you.
there are so many people that want to get a bigger house because, quote, we don't have enough room for our things, or we need more space for this or that. It's a lot cheaper to spend $150 for a roll-off dumpster for 2 days and throw out a bunch of crap that you've not used or haven't looked at in 10 years and magically get space again.
I think there should be a law that you should have to move every 5 years. Then you could literally go, oh, I haven't seen this in 5 years.
Don't need it.
Don't need it.
Do I really need this trifold project that I did my junior year in high school because my grandma thought it was neat? Okay, I mean, that's like 25 years ago. I don't need this. Put it in the trash.
Yeah.
If I make it through all 4 seasons without needing something in Indiana, I'm ready to throw it away. My wife, not ready to throw it away. But
Yeah. Well,
a year without needing it, you don't need it.
yeah. If you forgot that you had it,
Yeah.
then you don't obviously need it.
If you can't figure out a way how to plug it in because you left it under the bed for a decade, probably don't need it anymore. That old computer isn't doing you any good.
I got a Pentium.
Well, this computer's so old, it was gifted to me, that I cannot find a charger for it, even on Amazon.
The power supply, yeah. Well, you think they did that for a reason?
It has a disk drive, a CD drive.
What's a CD? I'm kidding.
My daughter wanted my old CDs so she could peel the thing off and decorate her wall with them.
I'm so old that I remember when I got my first CD burner in college, and I thought everyone wanted to come see me. Oh, he's got a CD burner. He can burn music for me.
I remember being excited when you could hit fast forward on a cassette and it would stop at the end of the next song.
Yeah,
That
was
like,
exciting.
That was some technology. Right
I had an 8-track insert that played cassettes.
You had an 8-track.
It's like a Nintendo.
You used to have a box in your trunk or in your back seat that was about this big with your 8 tracks in it, so you could put your Elvis 8 track in. Or
I have some Kiss 8 tracks at my house.
I remember the dimmer switch being on the floorboard with your foot.
Yeah.
See, now that makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
it should still be there.
Yeah.
I had one of those cars.
But
it was a big silver button.
Yeah, I digress. Anything else with this topic?
No, I just think it's important that you know your limitations and don't stretch yourself to the point that you're stressed out and can't function. It's just not worth it.
Wasn't that a Clint Eastwood line? Man's got to know his limitations.
Probably. Sounds like something Clint Eastwood would say.
Magnum Force, which was in the early 70s, by the way.
I know. I've seen that one. I mean, that's worth watching.
Anything else? Any words of wisdom?
Get ready to sacrifice. It's coming.
That's a whole separate issue. I think the world in general, and we talk about this at Bible study all the time, that the world is becoming a me first, and I deserve, and I want a bigger house. I deserve a bigger house, rather than going, you know what, I deserve to have money in the bank so that I can quit working at some point, or I deserve that. And nobody really wants to sacrifice.
Well, credit makes it possible to have what you shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Really, if we want to come
Which if you do that wrong, you won't have that credit after a while.
Or the thing.
Yeah,
there is a way to solve that. You just get rid of credit in general. Whatever you have, and that's it.
Got to buy the house cash.
It'll be hard for them to track our transactions and all that. If we
it'd be a lot easier to afford that house, and you would probably move into the one that has 2 bedrooms and 2 baths if you only could buy it with cash. You wouldn't be buying more than what you need.
That would be a whole great concept. While I don't think that's ever going to happen.
No, but I mean, isn't that where we got, though?
Yeah.
People bought things for what they needed. And somewhere across at some point, credit got so prevalent that people started buying more than what they actually need.
Well, biblically speaking, it then makes you a slave. Remember this conversation?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Do people like being slaves?
When you are indebted to a creditor.
Well, we keep putting the same people in office. You tell me.
Let me take that tinfoil hat off. Never mind.
We thank you for joining us and invite you back again, where we just have no really idea what we're doing.
We're winging it.
Sit and think and talk about what we believe you actually are sitting and thinking about. Check us out at youtube.com /5 Stones Mortgage, or go to 5 Stones. Yeah.
I think what he's saying is go to 5stonesmortgage.com and see some of the lovely opportunities that Colin and his business have for you.
Yeah. Thank you. Peace out.
Harumph!